beloved. I am Reverend Amani Malaika, and I am so glad you are here to join me for the kickoff to this 4-week series on freedom. And freedom in the spiritual context, freedom in its greatest context. Because what I know for sure as a spiritual being, as a being who is already complete and whole and holy, that the sacredness of you is already free. The work, which we will spend time on over the next 4 weeks, is claiming that freedom, claiming the birthright, that you are here as a free being to be absolutely, wholly, authentically who you are, and to express that true nature as you freely choose. And it starts with turning within, becoming more aware, being on the greatest treasure hunt of your life, and discovering more of your true nature. And being free and courageous to express that nature unapologetically, regardless of the outer circumstances that you may be facing. Because whatever location you find yourself in life, there are things outside of you that are telling you that some part of you, some piece of you, some aspect of you is not okay. And I'm here to tell you, it's bullshit. You are absolutely sacred, whole, complete, perfect in your true nature. And that there isn't anything about you, even the things that you may call flaws, even the things that you've been told in your nature are flaws. All of this makes up your wholeness. All of these aspects of yourself make up your wholeness. And your freedom is the experience of being able to be exactly who you are, being able to express exactly who you are. This is freedom. This is freedom. And one of the gifts of walking a free life is that you no longer are dependent on the world outside of you to give you a sense of freedom, to give you a sense of security and safety, because that all now happens from within, including your sense of belonging. You know, one of my favorite parts of having my own experience of freedom is knowing that because I am who I am, I belong to myself. I belong to the divine. I belong to the oneness, to the omnipresence. That is where my belonging lives. And because I know that, I am free to be anywhere in the world and have the experience of belonging in any room with any group of people. I'm not looking to them to tell me that I'm okay, because my okayness comes from within. And that has been a journey, that has been work, that has not always been true. And I want to share that with you over these next 4 weeks. And one of the ways that I know in this claiming of our freedom, claiming of our true nature, claiming of our belonging, begins with being willing to spend time growing your awareness of your true nature, which means you have to spend time with yourself. You have to spend time turning your attention on you, on going within to discover maybe parts of yourself, aspects of your nature that you don't even know about yet. So I want to spend a minute. I would love to do a practice just for a moment of taking a deep breath and bringing your attention from out here to in here. And just beginning to know that the life that you choose to live begins from this place within you that is wise, that is good, that knows what to do, that has the courage to take the step that maybe feels really scary to take in your life. But it begins with this practice of turning within. It's the way of living that I like to call living inside out. Rather than giving our power away to people outside of us, laws and rules outside of us, cultural norms outside of us, we turn within and become really intimate with this true nature, with this wisdom, with this power for good that lives within you. And that becomes the authority that you move from. that becomes the place that you express from. And this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing happens when you and I, and more and more and more and more of us on this planet, choose to live inside out. What it is we express out into the world, who it is that we show up as, is love in action, is beauty and grace and joy and all of the things that you and I want to have greater experience of. We now become the place and the gift of those experiences for life and others. Think about for a moment relationships in your life. Relationships in your life where you don't necessarily feel free to say the things, or you don't feel free to be who you are in your totality and be loved, be accepted. And I know that many of us are having that experience or have had that experience where we show up as who we are in our sexuality and our gender expression, in our enthusiasm and the loudness of our voices, in the quietness and the introvertedness. There are ways that you are naturally that haven't been accepted. And I want to acknowledge that. I want to acknowledge that. And I want to acknowledge that there are likely people in your families, people in your household, in your workplace, where you don't feel like you have the full permission to be who you are. And I want to challenge that notion, not from changing them or changing their ideas of what is good and true and acceptable, but I want to change the notion that your sense of belonging and acceptance depends on them. What if it didn't? What if you courageously showing up in all of your places, all of your relationships, all the moments you have in the world to interact with it? What if you had the courage to show up exactly as you are, fully, wholly, and know that your belonging has already happened, that you belong to yourself, and that people around you, circumstances around you, workplaces around you, get to just deal with that. That you are not dependent on whether or not somebody thinks you're good or whole or okay. This is one of the great gifts of walking a spiritual life, is the freedom that comes from understanding yourself as whole and perfect. The freedom that comes from understanding your true whole nature and living as that out in the world, unapologetically. And that maybe when you do that, you give permission to other people around you to do the same. Maybe those very people who tell you that you're not okay or don't seem to accept you as you are, maybe from you and your presence of wholeness, your presence of authenticity, is an unspoken invitation to those people that they too can show up in your presence whole and authentic. Because here's the thing about the freedom to move in the world and express your whole beautiful, amazing self exactly as you are, unapologetically, is because of all of the messages you've received that you're not okay, because of all of the times you've had hurt, maybe even physical, because you haven't been accepted or something about you is not allowed. What begins to happen is you and I trade our freedom for a false sense of security. You and I trade our freedom for a false sense of acceptance and belonging. And you and I do not have to do that. You don't have to trade your freedom, your authenticity, your absolute wholeness, divinely made self. You're paying too great a cost when you do so. Your freedom is too high a cost to pay for a false sense of security and freedom, for a false sense of acceptance and belonging. And, the thing that I think happens when we trade pieces of ourselves, when we shut away pieces, back in the closet, is that actually the experience of being seen, the experience of actual belonging cannot happen because you're not all there. You can't have the experience of being loved if you are not able to show up fully to be seen. This is, I think, a great conundrum many humans find themselves in, is connecting in relationships, connecting even in community and family, and thinking you are loved, but only being able to think that you are loved and not having the experience of love because you have cut away or hidden away or armored pieces of yourself that you don't think are lovable, that you've been told from all kinds of directions and places, whatever kind of body you live in, whatever gender you are, whatever race or skin color or ethnicity or language you speak. There are messages from these outside norms and systems and structures that have you believing that you are not lovable. And that belief that you've been handed is a false belief, is a lie. Spirit is whole, perfect, and complete in all times and present in all places. Which means, beloved, you are that goodness. You are that wholeness, that holy, sacred piece of the divine, ray of light of the sun. There is no possible way that you are unlovable. That cannot be true for those who choose to know themselves as spiritual beings. Which is why I want to offer a practice that can help you begin to get into greater relationship with this true nature that you are, to get into greater relationship, awareness, consciousness of your whole true self, so that then you know that your belonging is to yourself. And the courage that you need to speak up and to show up in your relationships, in your communities, in your neighborhoods, in your workplaces, is gathered from that inside place of knowing. That absolute sense that you get of yourself, that you're like, this is just who I am. And I am no longer going to apologize for it. That rises from within, that unapologetic nature. That rises from a greater conscious awareness of yourself. And so one of the greatest practices to walk a spiritual path, to live a spiritual life, to know yourself as a spiritual being is self-awareness. And I believe self-awareness, whether you are an atheist and choose not to walk a spiritual life in any way, but you just want to experience good, you want to live your best life, self-awareness is key. There's no escaping self-awareness if what you long for is an authentic experience of your nature, of your goodness. If what you long for is to experience more love, more connection with this life and with all of the people and creatures of this world that we share it with. Self-awareness is key. But I think self-awareness has gotten tangled up in all this pop psychology and positive, toxic positivity movements. Self-awareness has become this practice of either one, beating the crap out of yourself because you think you need to be fixed. Self-awareness for the purpose of identifying what's wrong with you. I would like you to throw that practice away. I would also like you to throw away the practice of self-awareness with this sheen of toxic positivity where you only see what's projected as good in the world. That you can only be these things that the world has determined as good. I want you to throw that away too. This idea that self-awareness means that you must be skinny and light-skinned and really good hair, that you must be someone who is hustling after capitalist success and money and productivity, those sheens that we receive from the outside that have become layered of concept of what you think is good to be. I'm talking about a self-awareness of diving underneath that, peeling away all of that BS and discovering your true nature. Your true nature that is true regardless of all of that crap and noise from the outside world. That true nature that was true before whatever conditioning you received from your families, from your child rearing, from your cultures. I want you to get really good at discovering your essence, your truth, the spark of you that is always true, that cannot be broken, that cannot be shamed, that cannot be molded and shaped by bullshit outside of you. I'm talking about self, capital S, self-awareness. And the best way I know how to cultivate that awareness, how to grow and expand the consciousness of your own nature is meditation. And there are many, 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 many ways to meditate. But one of the ways I want to offer this month, and we will be practicing together, is Reverend Michael Beckwith's visioning practice, which is more than just turning within and getting in contact with your true nature. It's a practice to turn within and become aware of your divine connection and capacity to be in relationship with the divine in your own being. That is part of who you are. Is this life of the Holy Blessed One that has access to the wisdom within your own being, the wisdom that is your wisdom, the truth that is your truth. And visioning is an amazing practice to be able to begin to contact that and cultivate that communication, to be able to communicate with your own wisdom, with your own nature, with your own truth, and let it begin to guide you into greater and greater experiences of freedom. And what I love about Michael's practice of visioning is it's about getting into juicy questions. Questions that you take within and listen. So you are in conversation with your holy nature. I love this practice because sometimes in spiritual life, particularly in the New Thought life or in metaphysical circles, you and I just get really obsessed with trying to manifest a particular condition or outcome, trying to change other people, right? Like a lot of times we come into this thinking, if I could just change my set of circumstances, if I could change who I'm in relationship with, if I could change my workplace, I would have a greater sense of freedom. I would have a greater sense of belonging and acceptance. And I'm offering you another way. You don't have to micromanage anything outside of you. That when you get into relationship with your true nature, with your inherent freedom, and get into conversation with it, you will be guided to right action, to loving action. You will be guided to higher vibrations that bring into harmony the experiences you want to have. So often the first question that visioning begins with is, what is Spirit's highest vision for me? What is Spirit's highest vision for my life? And so I want to invite you to join me for the rest of this month to get into the practice of being in communication with your holy nature, being in conversation with your freedom that is inherent, And we will begin this week with the practice of just getting used to the idea of being in this conversation, with being in a practice to catch the spark, as Reverend Michael Beckwith explains in the visioning. So there is going to be some video content for you to get into beyond this. Look in the comments below for a link to Reverend Michael's introduction to visioning and a practice video where he guides you in visioning. And I really, really am excited for you to dive into this practice. I also want to invite you, for those of you in the Albuquerque area or even closer by, if you are in Edgewood or Harris or Santa Fe, even come on down. On July 9th and July 16th, on Sundays at 4 o'clock, we will be guiding visioning practices in person at our campus. And you can go to our website, abqcsl.org, to get the information about that. And what I would really encourage you to do, if you want the visioning questions and aren't able to participate in person this month, sign up for a newsletter. We will be sharing the guided meditation practices there, the links to video content there, and the ways that you can be working on this at home, because that's really what this requires. This requires you to engage in your own spiritual life, in your own being through practice, hopefully in a daily manner. That is my invitation to you. I am so excited for you to step into greater experience of freedom that is already yours right now. Blessings. So I want to invite you to go deeper. I want to invite you to a couple of in-person opportunities to do visioning in community and take this work deeper so that you actually get to have a lived experience of your freedom. And those will be happening July 9th and July 16th at 4 p.m., hosted by our practitioners, led by Joylyn Hertz. I really know that this will be an opportunity for you to really get into it, get into your freedom, shine your light big and bright. And you can also join me on Zoom, particularly for those of you not in the Albuquerque area or not able to join us in person. Joylyn and I will be hosting a Zoom question and discovery session, 6 p.m. July 19th. And this will be an opportunity for us to discuss, do some practice together, and go deeper. If you need the link for Zoom, you've got to be getting our newsletter. So if you're not already getting our newsletter, go to abqcsl.org and sign up for the newsletter, and that's where you'll be able to find the Zoom link for the July 19th, Wednesday, 6 p.m. I can't wait to be in community with you. Blessings.